This is Dr. John Grazel, and this video is entitled The Next 30 Years. And by the next 30 years, I don't actually mean just chronologically 30 years. I mean a period that is normally seen as a generation, a period in which a cohort of people are born into the world, are formed by the world, participate in the world, help determine the world, pass the world on to others, and then depart from the world. Approximately 15 years ago, a very interesting book was put out called Our Common Journey that basically said that the world faced an enormous number of problems and faced solving them in a sustainable fashion, and in fact did not have a way of doing that, and actually had 40 years by their estimation to come up with a way of doing things in a sustainable fashion rather than actually the solutions themselves. And they made the plea that these were global issues, demanded global solutions, and they demanded working together globally. But by globally isn't necessarily meant global government, that everything is a world project. There are local projects, regional projects, but the point is even a local food security project is attached to a regional, to a national, to a global food security problem. The world is so interdependent, positively and negatively, that we have to see ourselves in terms of global interdependency and mutual aid, not only helping one, helping another, but working together. And mutual aid does not mean welfare, as is very often interpreted. It doesn't mean that those who have just give to those who don't have. It really means people each assuming responsibilities as members of a larger community and getting their rights out of the responsibilities that they actually exercise. Now, we have to transform the 20th century model of international assistance, which is asymmetrical and thinks one is better, one is worse, one has solutions, one doesn't, into a 21st century model of mutuality and mutual aid. But the difference is that it's not just mutual, because it is one world, but it is a diverse world, diverse cultures, diverse languages, diverse experiences. We're talking about intercultural mutuality, intersocial, that means interclass, interrace, intereconomic, interfaith, and intergenerational. And this is very important because classically, generations sort of corresponded to the lifespan. But today, our lifespans are becoming so long that we actually have worlds filled with multiple generations that really have totally different experiences. And we presently almost segregate those generations when we really now have to put them together, because every generation alive today is dealing with problems that none of them really understand, because they are new problems that none have ever faced. How are we going to do that? The way we're going to have to do that is by realizing that there's a difference between ends and means. And many of the things we've considered as ends, such as good health, building infrastructure, giving education, are really means. And we really have to redefine what our ends are, and in terms of non-material ends, because it's the non-material ends that will create that global world of mutual aid. Now, what are those non-material ends? Those non-material ends are, first of all, relationships of cooperation, of mutuality, relationships of trust between people, actual connectivities between people. And there's a difference between those we have immediate relations and those that we have connectivity. I may not be talking to the world on the phone, but I'm connected to most of the world through the phone. We also have to begin to develop and share a set of harmonious foundational principles that actually give us a common structure on which we can reach decision-making quickly and in consultation with each other, and in ways that our actions positively reinforce each other. And to do that, we're also going to have to recognize certain standards that we all accept as what we might call sovereign standards. And they're going to have to be based on not power, but the exercise of stewardship and responsibility and true representation by those we recognize as sovereign. They must be sovereign servants in stewardship, and not the other way around, sovereign lords that use others as their vassals, and in ways that actually transform our present-day institutions, because this is truly what's vital. Our institutions as they exist today, family, community, political, educational, religious, have to be transformed all into institutions that truly promote, search for, and guard peace, and not particular group interests. What's interesting is, to do this, the individual working in the group is really the key. The processes that cause, we discussed how transformation occurs, but basically it's key groups of individuals that over time create centers of attraction of which others are attracted, and you get processes that have been called nucleation, crystallization, but over time that grow and then transform themselves into other structures. And that is what we're going to have to do, every one of us. And every one of us can do that. If every morning, every one of us wakes up and says, my purpose is service. My purpose is first to fulfill my responsibilities, and then out of that, to gain my rights. And my purpose is to do that with others based upon working with them, dialoguing so we really understand each other, building our basis of common principles, and then pragmatically applying that and sharing with others. And as we do that, then we will get not only a mutuality of success and mutuality of benefit, we will actually get what has been called unity of conscience. Unity about understanding what our fundamentals are, why we are doing things, when we are successful, and when we are erring and actually have to create ourselves. And the greatest challenge to this is not lack of knowledge, because we have great knowledge, not lack of resources, not even the seeming differences that we come from, but that the greatest challenge to this is truth. The inability in a modern world to actually find out what is true. Because without truth, there is no trustworthiness. But we have so much data, so much information, so much distortion of things based upon projections and underlying purposes, that to know what is true seems almost impossible. Now, for years there were fights between, is there absolute truth, or is all truth relative? Is the truth of a Western civilization the truth of a primitive tribe in New Guinea? The fact is that truth, like a formula, does exist. There are true formulas and there are non-true formulas. But truth in a diverse world exists in context. And that is the hardest thing we're going to have to understand, that how to establish truth within its appropriate context. And that is where the next 30 years is so important, because it's this phenomena of generations that actually can keep us and make us more truthful. It is, when you think of who can be truthful in a society, it's the youngest child who could say anything but is ignored, and the oldest person who's respected. Between that, everybody's playing games with the data. And if we can create intergenerational processes where each generation tries to do their best, but by the end of their generational span, they accept their responsibility to be clarion calls for truth, and new generations accept the responsibility that they're there to responsibly search and challenge what is true. Oh, that is how we can maintain a dynamic that hopefully will increasingly let us define what is truth in context, even as context changes under us. And that is really the key to creating a ability to create sustainable solutions, because sustainable solutions have to be not only permanent. Sustainable solutions are really adaptive solutions, not permanent solutions.